If you enjoy watching Common Ground online, please consider making a tax-deductible donation at lptv.org. Lakeland Public Television presents Common Ground, brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota. Welcome to Common Ground. I'm your host, Scott Knudsen. In this Season 7 premiere, meet key players of the Bemidji Symphony Orchestra, including conductor Beverly Everett. Learn its history and become immersed in a dress rehearsal of Mozart's Requiem.
It's great to be a part of an orchestra. It's a lot like any sports team. You all need each other, and we get a rush just like any other group.
There's so many things going on in an orchestra. You stop and consider how many different instruments there are, and they're all playing different parts, and it all comes together into a beautiful piece that it's a thrill to be a part of the bigger orchestra.
Okay. All right, well, here we go.
Well, when you play, you try to make very clear the intentions of the composer, who's written out just about everything you need to know, including how loud, how fast. Sometimes there are even descriptions of what sort of emotion you need to be feeling. But you also have to have an extremely solid technique to make those things connect from your mind to your body to your hands. And of course you have to watch the conductor in case he might be overdoing it.
The one thing that an orchestral musician needs is other musicians to play with. It's not really something you can do on your own. You need a stage full of other musicians to make this amazing music.
Playing with other musicians requires interaction. You're listening constantly, you're watching, and you're trying to make your sound blend and work with others and your style with others. And so it's a partnership, and you're growing in that partnership. And it's exhilarating, and it's work and constant, and it's just awesome.
Being in the orchestra and being around other performers, everyone can bring something new to it. And so, I listen to other people play it and, maybe take ideas from them, but also think of, maybe how do I think it's supposed to go? And in the orchestra, we follow Beverly's guidance, and she's a wonderful conductor. I think that what sets the Bemidji Symphony Orchestra apart from other experiences for our artists is the combination of the fact that it's a community orchestra that they are welcome to play in, but there is a high artistic expectation and a lot of work that goes into meeting that expectation.
We are so blessed in Bemidji to have a live symphony orchestra. It's one of those things that makes Bemidji unique for a city of our size and for the quality of orchestra that we have.
Musicians are a lot like preachers. There's a lot of players out there that really want to have this experience. And our ministry, in a sense, is finding players, encouraging them to play, and trying to present them with experiences of the world's greatest music.
So the symphony is a mostly volunteer organization, so you have people that love music but have other careers.
Everybody, for the most part, in the Bemidji Symphony volunteers. I think at the present time they bring in some people from out of town who are paid, but most of the people in the orchestra have played for years and have not gotten a dime. Maybe some mileage.
We all come with the expectation that everyone else has worked on their parts and is ready to go.
So it becomes a palette of colors that's fun to be a part of and also makes it enjoyable to play.
And I don't know how others feel, but for me, being a player, playing my instrument is so much a part of my life. My instrument is part of me. And making music and getting involved in making music and playing together, when it goes well, it is an absolute thrill. And you want to do it again and again and again.
Teaches you about yourself, about your physical body, and it also helps you understand and make clear to yourself your emotional context within your body and yourself and the community and the world around you.
We feel that music transform itself and become bigger than life. It's just wonderful to be a part of that growth and that transformation of the music.
You do that long enough and it just becomes part of who you are.
It's a reflection of who you are physically and emotionally.
The BSO provides a wonderful opportunity at a really good price, and also all the kids get in free, and that's not true everywhere.
Part of the job of the orchestra is educational. Not that we think that our music is better, but we think that we ought to expose people to the cultural highlight of the community, because we all believe that great music enhances life and it leads people to have a better life, philosophically speaking.
If we did not have the orchestra, this kind of experience, one would have to go some great distance. Now, who would want to go those distances? And it's likely going to be people who've already been to orchestras before. They might be willing to travel, but if you have to go, always go somewhere else, how do we get the children of the day, the young adults who have not had such experiences, why would they go to them to get such experiences? So by being here, I think we perform another service in that we are accessible and we're trying to reach out and help the younger generations experience things that aren't just readily available otherwise in cities of our size.
The Bemidji Symphony brings more artists, and performers to the Bemidji area. Even if it's just for, a single concert with soloists, it brings many great artists that we wouldn't otherwise have here.
It draws in musicians from the area or even from big cities. They have soloists come in, and so our name gets out there. These big performers come in and perform for Bemidji Symphony Orchestra, and then they go somewhere else. Oh, where were you at? Oh, I was in Bemidji. Oh, really? They have an orchestra there? Oh, yeah. Pretty good orchestra. Very good orchestra.
Carl Thompson came to Bemidji State in 1938, I believe. He was the music man, he and Milton Dietrich. And Dietrich taught a lot of instruments, and Carl did all the choral and vocal. Carl wanted to do kind of a large oratorio experience, so he formed an oratorio society, which would include community people, college choirs from community colleges, Hibbing and so forth. They'd all come over here to Bemidji, probably in Memorial Hall in the big gym. And one whole side of that hall could be filled with singers. And then Milton Dietrich would try to come up with a small orchestra to accompany him. That's kind of how the orchestra was started. And it went for years like that.
At the time, there was a string program at the high school.
Oh, yes.
And string teachers at the high school.
Yes.
And in turn, their better players from over there would participate.
Right.
And other community people. And any university student that was a string person was
Right.
in it, as well as community folks would fill up the string section. There's probably about maybe 3 major events that occurred. One of them was way back in the 60s when they started to do maybe 3 concerts a year that was just the orchestra. Then the other one was when we formed a board and got more community involvement, and community got involved in the decision making, and there was more grant writing going on, so we could get grants for artists in residence and different artists. And then 10 years ago, when they had enough funds and had it all figured out that they could hire and pay for a conductor, not connected with the university, and also the board was able to generate enough revenue so that you could hire, if you needed an instrumentalist that wasn't in this area.
Most famously, Andre Watts, the pianist, was here a few years ago.
Different artists that came in.
About 3 years ago, I decided that I would like to be on the symphony board, and there was a position open. And I think it's great to be on both sides of that, be a musician and hear about the grants we're writing and be a part of the fundraising. And I just feel highly invested, and I just want to be a part of what's going on.
Well, the board's role is overseeing the operations of the concert series and the various other events and activities that are needed to get concerts up and going. We have an executive director, MaryAnne Wilimek, who actually deals with a lot of the real nitty-gritty behind the scenes.
My name is MaryAnne Wilimek, and I am the executive director of the Bemidji Symphony Orchestra, and basically took on a number of jobs that the volunteer board had difficulty performing because the reach of the orchestra was getting larger, the artistic product was getting better, and we needed a firmer support underneath that. I like to think of what I do at the orchestra kind of similar to what the conductor does on stage, I do in the office. I have little sections that I work with, such as the grants writing committee or the publicity committee or the fundraising committee, and it's my job to sort of make sure that that segment of the orchestra is also operating cohesively and in a way making their own beautiful music.
But as a board member and as a board, we work with fundraising, we work with questions of things like tickets and ticket sales. All of board members are involved in visiting with businesses in the community and establishing relationships to help support the symphony program, what it is we present. We also have to do a lot of grant writing. There are various members of the board who are on a grants committee, and they seek out various arts grants and other grants to help support some of the different concerts we've got.
I found it to be amazing how much work goes into everything behind the scenes, from fundraising and advertising, and especially a personnel manager having to make sure that we have all of these volunteer positions filled.
It's a year-round commitment, and it is a working board. Some boards I've been on and seen in the past where you basically show up at a meeting once a month and you make a couple yay or nay votes on some things and call it quits. This board is a very active, busy board.
I would say that everything I know now about what goes on behind the scenes makes me appreciate more how I am there, like every rehearsal.
You know, when an audience member comes into the concert hall and they experience this great performance, we're all very pleased about that. And Oftentimes they don't understand the enormous amount of work that goes into getting to that point. You know, the months of planning, of fundraising, of developing a publicity campaign, of getting the posters around town.
Folks like myself who work with some of the management of tickets and trying to keep track and look for trends in how our different concerts have gone through the course of the year.
Setting up a budget, doing the fundraising, and we have wonderful support from the community, both businesses and individuals that do support us in our fundraising efforts. We have creative paired graphic design doing our posters and our ads. We have Pat Riley, who is a cellist in the orchestra, and he is the one that writes those marvelous program notes that you see in our concert program. And speaking of the concert program, Julie Bankston volunteers her time to put together this amazing program year after year. We have our personnel manager and librarian Gretchen Rush, and her job is to find the music that Beverly wants to do, and then she has to find the musicians and put them in the chairs to play the music.
We do tend to meet about 10 months of the year. There's 1 or 2 months where we don't have a board meeting. But we do a certain amount of business, shall we call it, over email too. So we're constantly in touch.
It's a lot of volunteer work and staff work that goes into putting on each and every concert that we have. Dr. Everett has been such a gift to this community and to the orchestra, to the musicians that are on the stage, to the audience. She is enormously talented. She has an incredible network of connections around the country with other musicians. She is able to put together season after season of music that is cohesive, that is both challenging and comforting.
But when you're playing for Beverly, somehow she manages to convey, like all good conductors, the sense that you could do better. You can do it better. And in fact, you really should do it better, not because Beverly's standing up there, but because she makes you feel like we're doing a disservice to the music if we play any less well than it's possible for us to play. She doesn't do that by browbeating us or yelling at us. She does it by conveying to us a terrific respect for the music and a respect for the players. And that's a rare feature in a conductor.
The concertmaster and conductor do need to have a good relationship, and Bev and I do. We feed off of each other during rehearsals, and it's important that we're in sync.
She helps put the pieces together, and she helps you understand what your role is in a particular section, if it's the melody or the harmony, or if it's counter melody. That's Beverly's role, to help you understand where you fit in so that the music makes sense.
Dr. Everett has gotten the community to support the orchestra. She's been very good at organizing, getting the music, contacting people that can compose music for us.
She will often go about the orchestra, talking to people individually, asking them about their lives.
And no matter what she puts before our musicians, no matter how difficult it might seem, they always rise to the task and perform for her and give her what she wants, and it's a really nice symbiotic relationship that we all benefit from.
I get together with most of the string players, and we make sure as much as we can that bowings and accidentals and everything are going to go well. And then Dr. Everett is able to bring us to a higher level because we are coming prepared to that first rehearsal.
The other thing that she's done that's been very good is bringing in top-notch soloists. How many orchestras can say that Andre Watts played? He was a famous pianist, and he came a couple years ago and played with the Bemidji Symphony. That was a thrill. I didn't have a lot of percussion notes to play that concert, but it was a thrill to take and be in the orchestra and providing the accompaniment for such a famous soloist.
It's unfortunate that the audience can't see her face and can't see her frontal gestures because they're very expressive, and she really becomes the music, a visual analog of the music when we're playing it. And, you know, that helps us keep our focus and make sure that we're with her and with the music 100%. She's an amazing conductor and has been really terrific for the orchestra and putting us out in front of the community in a way that we weren't able to when the orchestra was connected to the university.
The Bemidji Symphony Orchestra gives me the opportunity to be inspired by the orchestra themselves. When you're making music together like that as one, instead of as the leader and the followers, it creates those, what I like to call the magical moments, the transformative moments. Being able to create those moments, you can't rehearse that. We can rehearse and make sure we're playing the right notes and the right rhythms at the right time, but that extra something that keeps bringing people back. I know we've had people who've written notes after a concert and have said, I had a terrible headache all weekend and I came to your concert and it went away. Or, you know, we've had people who have come to our concerts either to attend or to even play in the orchestra right after suffering terrible losses of a parent or a spouse, and they're doing that as that healing. And so I think being able to work together is what really creates those opportunities. I would love to see us continue to expand in the musicians that we have, to keep growing in our artistic output, just, you know, keep building our audience. And those are kind of easy things to say and harder things to do. I think we're at a fantastic level right now. I'm really proud of the fact that when I work with other musicians and hear just little murmurings around the region, our orchestra is really known as a place where people love to play. And on any given concert, we have people driving in from Twin Cities, from Fargo, from Grand Forks, from Grand Rapids, from all these little towns, because they know that they're going to have a solid experience here. So I want to continue to do that, to continue to find ways to show our musicians how much we value them. One really important goal that I have, because the Bemidji Symphony has reached some astronomical goals in the last few years. We've done major works. We've had major commission projects with composers. I'd like to see us now become the flagship of education. And what I mean by that is not just education in terms of children's concerts and things for young people, but education for everyone, so that when people come to our concert, they know that not only are they going to hear great music, but maybe at that concert they're going to learn something about the inner workings of the orchestra, or learn something about what the conductor really does, or how the conductor reads a score, or whatever, you know, the opportunity might be. I would love to see us in the next 10 years continue to establish that audience base, continue to establish that artist base, and then for people, when you say, what do you think of when you hear Bemidji Symphony? I think of how much I learned and how much fun I had going to that concert. Well, people love to hear live music, and obviously we're not too far a drive from the Twin Cities, and I know we have people here who go often and hear the Minnesota Orchestra, the St. Paul Chamber Orchestra. Those ensembles have also traveled here. And I think what makes it different is when you have a community-based orchestra that plays really well, and Bemidji Symphony plays really well, people kind of sit there in awe, and there's a sense of pride that, wow, this sounds fantastic, and that's my neighbor, that's my kid's teacher, that's the person I see in church. And that's what makes it special, is that they know the people that are there, and it creates an identification so that the audience doesn't just feel like they paid for a ticket and sat in a seat and heard something, but it's an experience and almost something that they're a part of as well. And we really try to emphasize that in our promotional things too, is how important the audience is. And we're so happy that our audiences have continued to grow. It warms my heart that in these economic times, when people have so many choices of how to spend their disposable income and how to spend their leisure time, that they choose to come here, the Bemidji Symphony Orchestra.
So be it.
Thank you so much for watching. Join us again next week on Common Ground. If you have an idea for a Common Ground piece that pertains to North Central Minnesota, email us at legacy@lptv.org or call us at 218-333-3014. To view any episode of Common Ground online, visit us at lptv.org. To order episodes or segments of Common Ground, call 218-333-3020. Common Ground is brought to you by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund with money from the vote of the people November 4th, 2008. If you enjoyed this episode of Lakeland Public Television's Common Ground, consider making a contribution at lptv.org.